point, it was so bad that I just felt like giving up.
I felt so alone.
Like nobody else could possibly understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people just like you. People who want to stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
Overeaters Anonymous, help me get my life back.
Now I eat in a way that's healthy and good for me.
I never realized what I was missing out on.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
Summertime with Service One Federal Credit Union. A time to venture into the great unknown. A time to hit the beach. A time to enjoy the company of friends and family. With Service One Federal Credit Union's great loan rates, you can go ahead and get that camper or boat you've had your heart set on. Let us help you make your dream a reality. Stop in today and speak with one of our loan officers at 1075 East Sherman Boulevard or at 1625 Eastwood Drive just south of the Lakes Mall. Service One FCU is federally insured by the NCUA.
A message from Liam Neeson, Orlando Bloom, Lawrence Fishburne, Salma Hayek, Mia Farrow, and Téa Leoni.
They do not have to die, but they do. 24,000 children every day.
They die for reasons we can prevent.
Like not getting enough food or medicine or clean, safe water to drink.
24,000 children every day.
But we are gaining ground. A generation ago, twice as many children were dying.
Still, 24,000 every day?
They do not have to die, but they do.
They die because they are young and vulnerable.
They die because through no fault of their own, they're poor.
24,000 children.
24,000 children.
24,000 children every day? My name is Téa Leoni.
My name is Salma Hayek.
My name is Orlando Bloom.
My name is Mia Farrow.
My name is Lawrence Fishburne.
My name is Liam Neeson, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
Car number 7 is pulling into the pit.
What's my winning diabetes plan?
Start taking action now for diabetes.
Medications.
Got them. And my insulin supplies.
Exercise.
Most days.
Blood sugar level?
On target.
Diet?
Eating healthy.
A1C?
Under control.
Managing diabetes, including controlling blood sugar, is a team effort that requires a plan that's right for you. For more information, visit standfordiabetes.org.
A public service of TCOYD made possible with support from Sanofi Aventis, U.S.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
And good morning, Muskegon, to all of you folks out there in radio, podcast, iHeartRadio, and computer land. This is EyeOnMuskegon, and I'm Jim Riley here in Muskegon's Clear Channel studios. We got the legendary Oscar Osbo sitting over there on the board, running everything, making things work perfectly.
Perfectly.
And if they're not, so give us a call, and we will do some dastardly things to Oscar later on after the show. And we got a new face in the co-pilot seat, Attorney David Wells. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Jim. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we're glad to have you. You are, I will just say, you are a candidate for one of the open slots in the judicial race coming up in August, and if you win in November. And that's a district court slot, is it not?
No, that's circuit court.
Circuit court,
Judge Graves is retiring. He's age limited from running again. So those of us who are running, we're running for his seat, which will be vacant in November.
All righty. Well, and the reason I mention that is that at the 9 o'clock hour, we will be having, I think, what at first didn't seem to me to be an interesting subject, but as I got thinking about it, and as David and I got talking about it, I think it's going to be an extraordinarily interesting subject. We're going to have a current judge, the Honorable Andrew Wierengo, will be coming in at the 9 o'clock hour, and we're going to talk about something that's, I think, somewhat unique here in Muskegon. I know that it's in a few other places, but it's really been done well here. It's something that they call sobriety court, and it's an alternative to taking folks who are in violation of the drunk laws. I imagine most of it is driving, but there may be others. And rather than just tossing them in jail, there are programs that seem to have some success. And, of course, now at a time when we are talking about the possibility of spending anywhere, I'm seeing between $20 and $40 million on a new jail, this is the type of out-of-the-box thinking that I think Muskegon has lacked in the past in so many areas. And so we're going to talk about this in greater detail. And I wanted to have my friend David Wells, who's an attorney there, to really grill Judge Wierengo. He's going to have. He's going to.
Arm wrestle too, I hear.
We might even have. We were talking about possibility of a wrestling match, and so Oscar, you got the role of paper towel. So if his honor is dripping with sweat with the pressure that we put on him, he'll be able to dob off, or maybe not. And we will continue to be. And we are not going to give up, letting you know that you can have an opportunity to get on the radio and give us a call in here. That number is 231-830-3109. And His Honor will be here in studio so that you can call. I know we've had some disappointed folks who've wanted to speak when we've had some of our guests who are phone in, but Judge Wierengo will be in the studio right about 9 o'clock. So if you're so inclined, give us a call at any time. But after 9 o'clock, we'll be welcoming those calls to Judge Wierengo. Couple things. Today is Father's Day, and a very special happy Father's Day to. I'm sitting in here with two fathers, and certainly grandfathers, and there's a bunch of you out there that are fathers to be. So, warm thoughts to all of you. And I know that not being a father myself, I've had to read these things or have them told to me, but I know that it is a challenge, and I would just say, I know that Oscar, you've had you've a couple of marriages, so you've had melded families and their challenges there, and David, you've got of course a lovely daughter who's an extreme success in schools and in life, but you've also got a son who's got an autism disability, a quite severe one, and you've earned, I'm sure, a lot of people's admiration for the way that you have done your job with Tyler, and I'm sure. Well, as a matter of fact, I'm sure you're going to be visiting him today, and I wonder what he's got planned for you.
Well, thank you for the compliment, Jim.
Well, you've earned it, and there's so many parents out there, moms and dads. But today we're going to celebrate fathers. They without them, and as we see, one of the really ultimate cultural problems that we have in our country is the lack of that fatherly support within the family. And let's face it, fathers are different from mothers, and they provide different addition to the growing up process. So,
I was just going to say that to me, one of the best things about Father's Day is not the idea that the supposedly worship the father. It's the father that sees their kids that have accomplished so much in life and done so well, and you know that you were part of that, and that makes you really feel good.
Yes,
to be a dad.
It's a lot of work and responsibility, but the rewards are extremely high.
Yeah. You kind of wonder sometimes in those early years, but yeah.
I know that's the case, and just a shout out to all fathers on this day. I did a little research. You know me, I love to get on the computer and find out what's behind the day, and I found it kind of interesting. There was a woman named Sonora Dodd, who back in actually in 1910 started pushing for a Father's Day. This is after Mother's Day had been set up, and she surprisingly got some, nobody cared. Certain people said, "Oh, we don't even want this." So she did what Americans tend to do with great success. She said, "I'm going to go see if I can get some support for this honoring of our fathers from various commercial enterprises, trade groups that would benefit most from the well. Got to remember now, this goes back. This is back into the early part of last century. So she went to the manufacturers of ties, tobacco pipes, and other traditional presents of the time, and she really kept at this because this was started early on, but in the 30s, a trade group got involved in it, started pushing it. Apparently, the newspapers were making fun of it because it was really what we would call a Hallmark holiday in some respects. Of course, it's obviously a very worthy one, but the trade groups didn't give up, and they kept promoting it and ultimately succeeded. And to me, what's interesting is in 1966 is only when it became an official national holiday. Lyndon Johnson issued the first presidential proclamation, and then 6 years later, the day was made a permanent national holiday by Richard Nixon in 1972. So it's surprisingly a relatively new holiday. And I bring that up not just to celebrate the day, but I think it's great that we have the commercial interests and the profit motive involved in so many parts of our lives, because without them, we probably wouldn't have a Father's Day or a Mother's Day. I know that earlier this week, when I was on the Talkin' Muskegon show, I noticed that I think it was Wednesday was National Lobster Day. Now, maybe we don't necessarily need a National Lobster Day, but the folks that
lobsters seem to think so. I don't know.
Well, the lobsters are probably not fond of it, but I'm not sure lobsters are really aware that there is a day in their honor. But the folks that sell melted butter and the lobster crackers and all those kind of things, I'm sure they're out there. But hey, that's what America's all about. And at a time when we are most concerned with producing jobs and giving opportunities for our young folks, great. Lots of money's being made on this day. Lots of wonderful gifts. David, did you get anything exciting yet? Or
nothing yet. But I was thinking about setting these dates, and I'm sure the lobsters are out there lobbying for National Hamburger Day or something like that.
I'm going to tell you right now, you can be sure that the PETA people were not happy when they heard about the Lobster Day. So I'm sure that the PETA folks are out there. Well, there was a time, and it wasn't that long ago. I put it on my MuskegonPundit.com blog. But within the last 3 or 4 years, PETA, the People Eating Tasty Animals organization, lobbied, in all sincerity, apparently, they lobbied the U.S. Fish and Game and Wildlife, whatever that department was, to officially change the name of fish to sea kittens.
Really?
And in fact, they did not succeed in that. But there is nothing too idiotic out there for the various.
So instead of going
groups.
fishing, you'd be going sea kitting.
Sea kittening or
something like that.
Whatever. Yeah. So on that happy note, even our buddy Roger Miller is dumbfounded and forced to burst into song. So we'll be back after this break.
Have you ever dreamed of working for yourself, owning your own business, and having the freedom to work when you want? We're the marketing arm of a $3 billion energy company, immediately looking to find a few entrepreneurs or business owners who can recognize a great opportunity. Rarely are there offerings like this to make a minimal investment with the ability to create significant earnings and wealth. Learn more about becoming a part of our team at ejobswestmichigan.com. We provide the training and support to help you succeed. What are you waiting for? ejobswestmichigan.com.
She's real fine, my 409.
It's coming. The second annual Wheels of West Michigan 2012 Car Show on Sunday, June 24th from 8 to 3 in the giant parking lot at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC. Everyone is welcome to bring their old or current muscle car or collectibles. All makes and models will be there. Come and take a stroll down memory lane. Mark your calendars as the West Michigan Chevy Dealers and Benton Chevy is proud to present the second annual Wheels of West Michigan Car Show. Registration will open Sunday morning at 7 a.m. in the new car showroom. Trophies and prizes to the winner, and food vendors will be on hand. It will be a day of fun on Sunday, June 24th from 8 to 3 in the parking lot of the giant 20-acre motor mall at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC on Henry Street in Muskegon. Presented by Benton and the West Michigan Chevy Dealers. Don't miss a great day of fun.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I knew what I was signing up for. I knew the consequences. I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
Armando and Felipe were brought together by a unique organization that serves our paralyzed veterans.
If there was no PVA, it'd be a lot of confusion. Our training is to better the veteran. We help out with the auto grant, the special housing adaptation grant, education, prosthetics. Our main focus is spinal cord injury and disease, but we see anybody.
First thing he had asked me before he even asked my name was I being taken care of as a veteran? And I thought that was pretty good.
Changing lives, building futures. That's Paralyzed Veterans of America. To learn more, visit pva.org.
90 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
And we are back at EyeOnMuskegon. This is Jim Riley, your host. Oscar Osbo on the board. Oscar, what's the official kind of nifty name for the? I know you're the engineer, but does the board got a cool name?
The Godly Guru.
There we go. Well, it does run the show. Without the board and without Oscar, there would be no show. And helping us out in the co-host seat here, Attorney David Wells, attorney and candidate David Wells too, candidate for judge coming up in August. Couple things I wanted to touch on before the 9 o'clock hour when our special guest, Judge Andrew Wierengo, will join us. Muskegon County, of course, we keep bringing up, or I keep bringing up, the fact that a small group led by myself did file suit against the County of Muskegon, alleging violations of the Freedom of Information Act and the Open Meetings Act. And just to let you know, the county is dragging its feet on this. This has been filed, I believe, almost 2 months ago, if not even maybe more than 2 months ago. And ultimately, when they lose this lawsuit, as I expect they will, because it's really a fairly simple violation that they made, they will be continuing to spend, of course, your money and time of their attorneys to attend to this, but also they will most likely be forced to pay our legal fees, which continue to go up as time goes on. And we are at the point now where we will be taking depositions of people who attended this, what we call illegally closed meeting. So that's where we are on that. The county leaders, the county commissioners, with the exception of Commissioner Alan Jagger, but all the others are very comfortable with what they call closed sessions. And there was an interesting closed session, and this one I suspect was legally called. But many of you may know that about 80% of county spending happens or goes, essentially it goes to employees and retirees. And most of that is tied to the union contracts that the county used to sign a couple every year. They voted now to move them all to come due on September 30th of last year. Well, these were 3-year contracts. I have my issues with how they were publicized before their signing and agreement, but ultimately they were put in place. But I did notice an unusual thing in the contracts when I read them, something I would be shocked if any, or certainly many of the county commissioners done. But there was a clause at the back, which at the end of the contracts, which allowed the unions, if they so desired, to reopen the contracts for the pay and income reasons. And I didn't think much of it. I thought, well, my golly, you just signed a brandy new 3-year contract. Well, last week, the county commissioners voted to go into closed session to discuss union labor negotiations. And again, being closed session, I don't know what was in there, but in talking with certain folks who were around and about, apparently there is a pay increase coming that we will all have to ultimately pay in the form of taxes, or as the county has done things, since they've spent that money in promises that have yet to be figured out how they're going to get paid. But there will be a likely increase, and it'll be interesting to see how the county commissioners pass that information on to the taxpayers and the folks who live in this county.
I have a lot of experience in the labor law area, and a provision such as that, where you can reopen a contract for economic terms, is somewhat unusual, and I'd be interested in knowing why that particular provision ended up there, or what the trade-offs were, and what the concerns were that made the county board agree to that particular provision, because it is pretty unusual.
Well, and see, that's the point. We're not arguing whether they should have the right to do that. We're not arguing. I'm certainly not arguing that the unions should or should not get a raise. what I'm talking about is the way that these types of raises have been snuck in, the way that these types of meetings with closed sessions and last-minute additions to agendas and voted on without really, certainly anybody who's interested, like myself, someone sitting in the peanut gallery over there on the 4th floor of the county building, or someone else who might be reading agendas. It's very, very hard for us to find out what's going on because, in fact, and I call it a zombie board of commissioners. They operate in the dark. They wander around. They don't seem to be doing their homework. They seem to be, at least with some of their votes and their lack of questioning, they seem to have already eaten each other's brains, as zombies are wont to do, because they don't ask these questions, and there's no understanding that public hearings and the Open Meetings Act isn't just for you to do what you want to do in public. It is also to convey information to the public. And that leads me to two public hearings that happened in this past week, which really I thought were very disappointing. There was what they call the Truth in Taxation public hearing, where the county, by law, has to announce in advance there's going to be a Truth in Taxation public hearing. This was about this tax increase that the county voted on, finally on their full board, but they did vote for a tax increase for all of you out there in Muskegon land. But instead of explaining what the tax increase was all about and the reasons for it or against it, they simply said, we're having a hearing. People who want to comment can comment. Only one person commented because there was a little information out there that people really didn't understand what it was about. There was the expectation on my part, naive as I am, that perhaps there would be an explanation about why the need for this. There might have even been a little bit of a debate among the commissioners about the need to increase this millage rate. And in fact, at the end of the first, there wasn't really even a question. It was a citizen who stood up and said something about the fact that it was going to cost taxpayers more money. They just voted 10-1, again, Commissioner Jagger voting against it. And that was it. That's what they call a public hearing. That's what they call truth in taxation. And I'm sure to the letter of the law, or at least I suspect, it was legal under the letter of the law. But there is no understanding, and there certainly seems to be no inclination on behalf of the county commissioners to inform the public. And right after that vote, they also had another public hearing where they had to there was a closeout of what they call the Digital Divide program, which was a program that they embarked in some years ago to bring the internet to the rural areas of Muskegon County. Well, anybody who was expecting help and internet to flow into their homes during that time was terribly disappointed. It was an absolute debacle. I don't know anything about what the cost was. Obviously, somebody was paying something. It may not have come from the county, or it might have come from the county. But they had their required public hearing to close down and end that particular financial debacle. And again, with no information of what it was about. Nothing. Just, did we do the minimum, ma'am? You know, that's all we need to do.
What confuses me about this lack of discussion on these issues is it makes me seem to think that either one of two things are going on here. Either they're having private discussions where they're talking about these very important issues, not in public, and they shouldn't be having these private discussions. That's why we have an Open Meetings Act.
That's very true.
Or they don't know enough about the topic to discuss it. So one of these things are going on. It's really confused me why in open session they're not talking about it and giving the opportunity for them and the commissioners to explain to the public what the issues are and why they're voting the way they are. And it's also confusing, how come there's no conflict? How come everybody's already on the same page when there's no discussion?
Well, those are good questions because it is illegal for a majority of the commissioners to get together and discuss this issue. I'm sure that there is somebody within the county who knew this and could easily have been called upon to make a presentation. You know, say, hey, look, we've got to vote on this thing. Can you make a presentation so that the public understands what's going on? And if we've gotten information over the past few weeks or months, whatever. And so that if the county commissioners are fully apprised of what's going on, that's one thing. But there again, there is no real interest, apparently, at all in the county commissioners, Ken Mahoney being the chairman, and certainly all the rest of them, with the exception of Commissioner Jagger, in informing, what happened, Doug? Why did this fail? Why did you guys go ahead and vote for this thing? And now the only comment you have, first off, was how wonderful it was. I'm sure there was the commissioner's version of kumbayas and hugging and glad faces at the beginning. Now it's a terrible, miserable waste of taxpayers' money, and it's just never mind, goodbye. Well, the interesting thing of these two things, these two, I believe, quite important public hearings, statewide legally required public hearings, was that those two public hearings took maybe 10% of the time of the two things that immediately followed, which one was a tribute in recognition of Muskegon High School Theater Department, and the other one was a tribute in recognition of Waypoint Academy, which are very nice. They both had done things that were of value. But in fact, they had two commissioners that made the speeches in recognition. They brought all these youngsters up. They took photos, and they clapped, and they did all sorts of wonderful things. That's, to me, emblematic of what our county commission is all about. It is all about fluff. It is not about informing the taxpayer. It is about making decisions. Perhaps in private is where they eat each other's brains as the zombies that I believe many of them to be. And I think it's unfortunate because right at a time when, and we've got Judge Wierengo coming in after the 9 o'clock hour, we've got a time where the county commissioners have to convince somebody that the money's going to be available to build this new jail, which they appear to be intent on building. Mm-hmm. There's going to be another vote on Tuesday. The Ways and Means Committee, I believe it is, will be voting to spend something like $70,000 to get the architects and everybody else going. So this is already a done deal, at least in their minds. But don't they, it would seem to me that they would need and they would welcome the support of the citizenry and certainly the businesses that pay a significant amount of the property taxes within the county. And yet they seem to be taking a position that the less they know, the easier it's going to be for us to get through. And I don't know how they're going to get the money. Mm-hmm. They certainly have made no mention. There's been absolutely not one single comment anywhere about how they're going to pay for a new jail.
Well, that casino won't make any money, but that jail sure will,
Well, I'm not so sure it's going to make any money. I know that, actually, there is a law. There is I don't know. But, the funny thing is, the commissioners did ask, somebody did ask, are we going to be able to make money from the jail?
Right.
I mean, a commissioner asked that.
Yeah. Well, that's to me that's a question that will it bring jobs? Will it bring money? I guess that's
Well, we don't know. It depends on the size.
Criminals, that.
Well, again, the county is required, and certainly you need a jail. I'm not suggesting that, but what I am saying is that when we have discussions where the county has an opportunity to communicate with the media and with the public, they really just flat out choose not to. Well, we're coming up to a break here. When we come back, we'll talk about a program that I believe, at least initially, seems to be working well with Judge Andrew Wierengo, David Wells. Jim Riley will be back, as will Oscar.
Oh, don't you love me sometime?
Can I have ice cream?
Not today.
Please? It's so good.
Well, it's not that good. You know how they make ice cream, don't you? It's made from the stuffing from little stuffed animals. Like the ones you had when you were little. Where do you think they went?
Mom said they're in the attic.
Okay, sure.
There are better ways to get your kids to eat better. Visit iHeartRadio.com/healthy habits for fun family recipes and lots more great tips.
A message from the Ad Council and NIH's We Can.
I knew I was stuck at this kid's house for the night. I decided to just go to sleep and get the night over with. But those guys came into the bedroom and got into a massive pillow fight. Let me tell you, it's not easy falling asleep when a sweaty little kid falls on you every 5 seconds. Even after the lights went out, Raleigh and his friends stayed up. A bunch of them snuck up on me to try and pull a hand in a bowl of warm water trick. Well, that was enough for me. I went downstairs to sleep in the basement even though it was pitch black. I left my sleeping bag upstairs and that was a mistake. because it was freezing. I think it was probably the longest night of my life. When the sun came up this morning, I found out the reason it was so cold. I was sleeping right by the sliding glass door, and some fool had gone and left it open overnight. That really stunk, because if I knew there was a way to escape last night, I definitely would have taken it. To read more about the sleepover, check out Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw by Jeff Kinney. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library. And visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
For injured veterans like Felipe Adams, there are veterans like Armando de la Rosa ready to help.
Our training is to better the veteran.
Paralyzed Veterans of America, changing lives, building futures. Visit PVA.org.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090, WKBC Muskegon, and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
Factory Surplus Sales in Montague has all the summer clothes and apparel your family needs at everyday low discount prices. Famous brand name merchandise, shirts, shorts, beachwear, pants, workwear, footwear, and more.
Factory Surplus Sales.
US 31 to the Fruitvale exit in Montague.
Cold steel, rough concrete, tough plastic, synthetics. Today's world is enough to make us lose our real sense of touch and feel hundreds of miles away from nature. Luckily, that's not the case. There are places all around where you can get in touch with nature. At the National Wildlife Refuges. Here you can experience the warm, inviting touch of nature at every turn. Feel the smooth, gentle bark of a white birch tree on your fingertips. Walk barefoot on the smooth, water-worn river stones. Feel the soft moss lining a towering wall of limestone. When you feel these things, you're feeling the world the way we found it. With over 500 refuges across America, you don't have to go far to make a special connection with nature. Learn more at fws.gov/refuges. That's fws.gov/refuges.
I shoved the envelope under my sweater and sneaked to the kitchen. Mom was on the phone in the front room. I didn't want to have to explain anything. I just wanted to be by myself. Clutching the envelope tightly, I stepped onto the ladder at the bottom of the treehouse. Something caught my eye above me, and I looked up. Light! It looked as if there were a firework display going on inside the treehouse. Crackling and snapping and whizzing sounds spun around above my head. Light shot out and sparks dancing to the popping of noise. My first thought was to scream fire and run to the house to get Mom. My legs trembled as I inched upward, creeping up the rungs as quietly as I could. My heart banged so hard that it felt as if someone were hitting my chest. A couple more steps, and then I leaned forward, craning my neck to look inside. And then I looked up and saw... To find out what happens next, read Philippa Fisher's Fairy Godsister by Liz Kessler. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library. And visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Jenny Garth. Heart disease is something I live with every day. It runs in my family, and it took my dad's life. So I'm choosing to speak up, and so can you. Tell people how it's the #1 killer of women. Tell them one woman dies every minute from it, and that 80% of cardiac events in women may be prevented if you make the right choices today. Join American Heart Association's Go Red for Women. Speak up to save lives at goredforwomen.org.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Salma Hayek, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
Wow, this place is so adorable. I can't believe we haven't stopped in sooner.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Betsy, look at these sweaters. 2 for $75, and they look amazing on our girls.
Maybe they would. I'm not sure if it's the right size.
Oh, come on. You know they're perfect. What's wrong?
Suzanne, I have no business being in the store. I should not be shopping. Things are really tight right now.
Tight? Are you and Michael having trouble?
We're behind on our mortgage, and Michael is really worried.
Listen, Bill and I had the same problem a few months ago, and we got some really great counseling, and it was free. I'm going to email you the information as soon as we get home.
Suzanne, you're the best.
If you even think you may be in danger of foreclosure, call the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Certified housing counselors can help you work through your problems, and the service is free. Call the NFCC at 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. That's mortgagehelpnow.org. This has been a public service from the NFCC.
There.
All right. If you look at one of our brochures, it describes sobriety court as a specialty court given the responsibility of handling chronic alcohol abuse cases through an intensive therapeutic regimen, which is monitored and reviewed by the court in biweekly sessions. The thing that that sets up this court apart from the traditional court, that is a specialty court, is that the judge actually takes a very personal interest in each and every person that comes in front of him, as where in our traditional courts, the judge is very objective and basically makes findings of facts, as guilt and innocence, and then sentences them. But in this specialty court, after the sentence, he then takes a personal interest in this person every 2 weeks throughout the 18 months that they're in the program.
All right. Well, let me ask you this: can you give me would a typical person in sobriety court be someone who'd been pulled over perhaps multiple times, or at least drunken driving? Would that be an example of one?
The parameters are, we have two specialty courts. One is a misdemeanor sobriety court and one's a felony sobriety court. The misdemeanor sobriety court, you've got to have at least 2 drunk drivings or a drunk driving and a bunch of minor impossessions that indicate that you do have a severe alcohol dependency. In the felony sobriety court, you have to have 3 convictions or more for drunk driving, which then really indicates a severe dependence on alcohol.
Okay, so these are folks that have been arrested in conjunction with alcohol problems. Why don't they just go in front of a regular judge? How do they get moved from the Judge Judy over to what you call sobriety court?
Well, we've set up a process that everybody that's been charged in felony cases comes before me, no matter what. They bypass the other judges, and then we have a screening situation where we screen these people for their dependency. And all the judges are on board now that if, in fact, they do have a dependency, and if they are willing to go into sobriety court and go through the 18 months, then they will come into my court, and I will then monitor their progress over the 18 months.
And within what you call the sobriety court program, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, does that mean that you, in fact, are doing the job of 2 judges? I mean, you are a judge in the
district court.
The district court.
Right.
So you are, in fact, doing your regular duties as a judge. Got the robe on, and people come in, and you've got the gavel, and away they go. But now you've got this additional job. Does this take away significant time from your other duties, or how does that work?
Well, it is. It's a very intensive program. A lot of behind what you're doing normally, work, a lot of research going on, a lot of reviewing of their progress. I am a district court judge that I handle a misdemeanor sobriety court as well as Judge Close does, and then by designation I've become a circuit judge, which allows me to handle the felony court to the drunk driving court, the felony sobriety court.
Okay, so but do you in fact do the regular, the non-sobriety court duties?
I do all that stuff in addition to this.
Okay, great. And you are the judge who started this entire concept here in Muskegon County. Is that correct?
That's right.
When did this begin?
Well, really, it began in 2001, where I realized there was a need. People were looking for answers. They realized they had a problem, but they didn't get the kind of direction and support. So I took it upon myself, without anybody else, to just gather this group in on Mondays at noon and counsel them and try to give them some hope, some encouragement. And I did that for about 18 months, and I became so exhausted I didn't have any other help. So I had to disband it because I just didn't have enough reserve to do it. And
I would imagine emotionally it's quite taxing.
Oh, it's tough. And then in 2005, we got support from the federal government. And we went to some training there and got reinvigorated again, and then we took it on in a bigger way.
Okay, now, a lot of folks, like, there was just a horrific accident yesterday, apparently, where a father was killed, and at least the MLive headline said it was a drunk driver. Is that someone who might show up? This would be a felony, drunk driving. Is that someone who might show up in your court?
Yes, they will show up in our court. All felonies start in the district court to begin with, and so we have to screen those as to where they go and when they go. And I've got to make a judgment call in regards to whether these people are appropriate for coming to the sobriety court. I've had situations where people have been in accidents, and I had one person that killed somebody back in 2000, and then in 2010 I had another drunk driving, and he wanted to come into sobriety court. And I said, if you didn't learn your lesson the first time when you killed somebody, I'm not going to spend my time and give you a slot where you haven't had the sense to come around to begin with.
Okay, so you've got the call, and of course you've got the experience. You've seen them. Well, you've seen literally all of them, or at least most of them,
right.
Anyway. Why is this a good idea? Because a lot of folks might say, someone has violated the law. It's one thing to get pulled over once, okay, but they got multiple pullovers. There's obviously the social stigma now attached to drunk driving. Why is your program, which is keeping these folks out of what they really ought to get, which is jail time and big time penalties, why is your program better than what the alternative would be?
Well, hopefully and expectantly, they won't come back again. That with the tools we give them over a period of time, they will adjust their activities, redirect their resources, and not come back.
But isn't jail a pretty good incentive?
Absolutely not.
Why do you say that?
Because it's just our statistics show that people come back again and again for the same infraction. As we've got some people that have had 8 or 9 drunk driving cases who have been through the system, who've been through any modality of probation, and they have not learned. And we have people that have been through Hazleton and Brighton and are now before our court and have successfully completed our courts. And our expectation and our experience is that these people have bought into the program. They have reevaluated their own lives and found that sobriety is really where they're going. And through this intensive, 18 months, it gives them a chance to slow the train down, to figure out where they're going, who they are, and with our encouragement and sanctions, they do readjust their priorities and become sober.
Now, you mentioned Hazleton and Brighton, and that's, for those of you who may not be familiar with them, that is sort of the Betty Ford kind of situation where it's typically quite expensive private hospitals where you would go to address a substance abuse problem.
Hazleton's $28,000 for 30 days.
Okay, so it's not inexpensive. Now, are you suggesting that people had gone through that and then into your court because they had problems?
Yes.
Or?
Yes.
So after they've spent the $28,000, or probably more, it didn't work, but your program does seem to work.
Yes, specifically for this one person who went through Hazleton and Brighton at the same time or at a later time, has successfully completed and is alcohol-free for the last 2 years.
Have you considered getting Lindsay Lohan flown in? Perhaps she could write a check when she visits.
The real thing we look to is the real desire for people to change. If they just are going through the program so they can avoid a substantial jail sentence or some other sanction, we don't want them. We want them to want to change, and if they don't have that feeling, we will reject them right away.
Well, that takes a unique talent, that most people obviously don't possess. You're a judge. You deal with people all the time. You have to make those calls, and of course you've got the experience. What happens when at some point you're going to retire? Other judges are learning, this type of analysis, if you will.
Well, we have Judge Close, who has a misdemeanor sobriety court. I don't have anybody that's going to step in my shoes as a felony sobriety court judge. We have two other specialty courts, well, at least one other specialty court. Judge Lattice Hoops has a mental health court in district court. And now Judge Nolan will be hopefully being able to establish a veterans court also.
I just saw that. Why would veterans be, separated? What's the logic there?
Well, the logic is that veterans have been poorly supported after they've come back. And the federal government is pushing for these veterans courts to specifically help them in their adjustment from combat to back to our society, and feel that there's an obligation there. And veterans and Judge Nolan is a veteran, knows a lot of the pains that the veterans have gone through and can empathize with them. And I think that a veteran is more willing to be counseled by somebody who's been walking in their shoes than somebody that's not.
Okay, and that's starting. That's not up and running yet, is it?
We're trying to get some fund right now to start it. We don't have it.
Okay.
I was just curious, real quick, if I could ask a question as far as their license. Does their license get suspended, or does it get taken away, or do they?
Well, yes. Typically, until 2 years ago, if you got a drunk driving second, your license was revoked.
Okay.
And if it's a third offense, your chances of getting your license back in 10 years is you're hopeless.
But they still go and drive without the license.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. But recently, the law has changed that now people that go into sobriety court, whether it's a felony or misdemeanor sobriety court, have the opportunity to get their license within 45 days to go to sobriety court and those. And also to and from their job, which is really a carrot for a lot of people to go into sobriety court. However, if a person wants to go into sobriety court just to keep their license, that's not going to wash with me.
All right. Well, this sounds like a nice program, and certainly it's a wonderful opportunity for those who want to take advantage of it. Whether they succeed or not, at least in the short run, it gets them out of jail and allows them to drive. How's it working? What kind of statistics have you got to show that it's worth the effort?
Well, in 2009, we got a $500,000 grant from the Justice Department, Federal Justice Department. And after utilizing those monies for the last 2 years, Western Michigan University was required to do an evaluation. They also got $50,000 to do the evaluation. And they came in and looked at all our paperwork, interviewed everybody, and came away with the conclusion that we got an excellent rating in regards to the cost benefit. And so...
what does that mean, though? That's I'm a numbers guy.
Okay. If you were to take a person in sobriety court with the same crime and a person outside sobriety court with the same crime, you get more bang for your buck if you're in sobriety court.
Bang for your buck as opposed to the amounts of money spent in jail or prison or that type of thing?
Yes. And the fact that they will not be coming back, reoffend, reduces the cost to the county and to society in the whole.
To society, you bet. Well, not to mention the fact, obviously, the social side of it, where it's not just the drunk driver. In the case of this terrible tragedy yesterday, where someone is killed, it's the families of the victims. Of course, it's the victim, but it's the families, and it's the family of the drunk driver, and it's not just the immediate family, but it's all the folks. It could very well be his or her fellow workers, and any number of awful things, and that type of issue is you can't put a dollar amount on it, but in reality, it's a very, very valuable benefit.
If the conclusion came back that we're not getting a bang for a buck, I would abandon sobriety court. I think that our funds are so limited that we've got to use them wisely, and if we're not, just to have programs to make you feel good is not worthwhile.
Judge, you mentioned how you got burned out early because you didn't have the necessary funds. Could you explain a little bit what additional types of expenses and additional types of professionals that you spend the money on that you wouldn't ordinarily have in the judicial system?
All right. Thank you, Dave. We've got a sobriety court probation officer. We have 2 case managers that manage these people on a daily and weekly and monthly basis. We have 2 surveillance officers that go about, knock on doors at all hours of the morning to check up on these people.
Are they tested, drug tested, or I don't know how you would test for alcohol, but are they regularly tested?
Yes. And so what's good about these surveillance officers is they'll come at a time where we don't see them or could not see them at night at their job or, wherever they may be, knock on the door and require them to be tested. And if they don't, if their test's dirty, then they are reported to us, and then we react on it.
I have, of course, been going to almost every county commission meeting for the last 3 years, and I've seen a few of the meetings where you have brought in some of your staff and some of the folks, I guess, I don't know if this is the correct term, but the folks who have graduated from the program, and there was a little ceremony, and it, my understanding, outside of the county commission room, these are quite emotional. It was actually, I thought, quite emotional just sitting there in the county commission room there. But what are these folks? They graduate. They've gone through. What did you say? How many months is this?
It's 18 months in the program, and then they have anywhere from another 6 months to a year probation afterwards. We can require them to do other things too.
Okay.
Are they allowed to? Okay, the license is gone and they aren't driving anymore. Are they still allowed to drink?
No, it's zero tolerance.
Okay,
that's a really good question.
Yeah, I was curious. Yeah. Well, I've got somebody that used to be in our family that went through this whole thing, and
well, they do. There's no doubt about it. Our best expectations that they don't drink and drive, but we routinely go through our convictions, our reports, our police reports to determine if these people have been rearrested for a drinking offenses, and we found that like 90% of the people who are in a program have not been rearrested within 2 years, which is amazing, and it's wonderful to see. But again, there's no guarantee. They've got to be motivated. They've got to want to change. We'll give them the tools. If they pick them up, fine. If they don't, they're not going to survive, and unfortunately.
Yeah, but 90% in 2 years, that seems like a really high success rate.
It is. In fact, in the felons, the ones that are more serious, there's a higher success rate, and I attribute that to the fact that the felons are generally older, supposedly smarter, that they are income producers, have had a level of sobriety over a period of time, know what it's all about, and finally get it. The misdemeanors are generally younger, kids that get involved and take risks.
More impulse,
and it's harder to rein them in.
All right,
that's where the challenge is in the misdemeanor sobriety court.
We got to take a break here, but we will be back with Judge Andrew Wierengo and the crew. Talk to you shortly.
Surplus sales and
golfers just in time for summer. Maple Hill Golf in Muskegon, Holland, and Granville has everything for the game, like Golf Buddy preloaded GPS devices with no annual fee for $149.99 and Callaway FTIZ drivers for only $88.88. Save big on everything for your favorite golfing dad or grad at Maple Hill.
Holland Hydroponic Outlet has it all. Complete light systems, hydroponics, ventilation, nutrients, and soil in Holland, Grand Haven, and South Haven. Check out Torched Glass Art Studio next to the Holland store, creating one-of-a-kind glass pipes.
It's here and it's hot. It's Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC Summer Sell Down. Every vehicle in Benton's giant 20-acre motor mall is marked down with super hot summer savings. From Seaway Drive to Henry Street, we're wall-to-wall and overstocked, and every Chevrolet, Cadillac, and GMC must be sold. The Summer Sell Down event is on. Shop over 1,000 vehicles and save thousands and lower your current monthly payment. No other dealer saves you more. Benton wants and needs your trade, and extra trade dollars have been authorized for the Summer Sell Down event. Take your pick of the all-new Chevy Cruze, $109 a month. Chevy Malibu Sign and Drive, just $129 a month. GMC Terrain, $159 a month. Or drive a Chevy Silverado, just $195 a month. Shop our massive selection of pre-owned vehicles, all makes, all models, and we guarantee the absolute bottom line price you'll find anywhere. The Summer Sell Down event is on, and the only thing that's missing is you. Hurry into Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon, where Michigan shops. Benton.
At Home with Gary Sullivan.
I made a paneling choice mistake, and it's a rough surface, and it shreds everywhere. I'm wondering if there's anything I can do to make it a surface that I can wipe off someday?
You could sand it down smooth. What you could do is you could get some panels which are like a cement board siding and put those up. If you stain it, it's not going to change the texture.
Right.
If you paint it, yeah, that'll smooth it out a little bit.
Catch the show Sunday afternoons at 6 on News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
Candidate. Got a question, Judge. Frankly, this program seems really spectacular. But an argument might be made that it actually does cost more money than it's, maybe not than it's worth, but more money than one might expect, because by keeping people out of jail, aren't we opening up beds for other people to be put into jail?
Well, yes, in a way, and we hopefully we will be putting the people in jail that need to be put in jail. That is, the people that are assaultive, the people that go out and create mayhem, cause mayhem, the people that really need to be confined and sent away, segregated from the general population.
Okay, because these folks who do ultimately earn their way in, I guess you'd have to say earn their way into sobriety court, are viewed as being, with the exception of their drinking problems, of being decent social citizens.
Right. I mean, it's the American Medical Society has declared alcoholism as a disease, and as a disease, as in cancer, you wouldn't tell somebody that had cancer to snap out of it, would you?
It'd be nice if you could.
Well, it'd be nice if you could, but the same thing with alcoholism. You could, some people can say, well, just quit. Well, you can't
just
say
say
that.
no.
Just say no, yeah. And that's just not the way it works. And in any event, I just wanted to indicate to you that people are in the felony sobriety court have a mandatory 30 days right up front. As soon as they plead guilty, boom, they go into jail for 30 days.
Oh, so they get the experience of what awaits them if, in fact, they falter.
Absolutely. And they do it quickly rather than at the end when they're sentenced. So hopefully within the first month of their arrest, they feel the impact, the sanction right away, and that's what we're looking for.
Judge, talking about the overcrowding in our jail and prisons, I think most of the public is aware of how many people there are there because of other drugs other than alcohol. You mentioned 3 specialty courts that we have, mental health and sobriety and veterans court. What is preventing us from expanding to a drug court that covers drugs other than alcohol?
A willing circuit judge that wants to take it on.
So we could have an additional court. Now, if a judge took that on, obviously you mentioned, which I think is kind of interesting, was quite interesting to me, the emotional toll that it does take when you're intervening. Well, you're essentially putting their lives into your lives at some level. But if a judge decides to take this on, does that not, though, then reduce the amount of time that the judge would have for their current duties? And how do we handle that?
It's a commitment and a passion, and you just got to accept the fact that it's more work, and it's valued work, and you don't look at it as an additional couple hours or 3 or 4 or 5 hours a week. You you do it as a Christian, giving back to our community and to society.
So this is an opportunity, just waiting a judge to step up.
Yes, but again, we've got the funding issue, and that always precedes the actual program itself. But there are funds out there. They need to be aggressively sought. We have an excellent fund writer, grant writer, Judy Kell, absolutely the best in the world, and she knows how to get this money. She's a wonderful person to work with, and she is responsible for many of the successes we have and the funds we have. Right now, we are fundless, that is from the state and federal government, and now are relying upon the county to pick up the tab, and they have done that.
And what kind of tab is it, approximately, on an annual basis from the county?
It's approximately $230,000.
And is this a bill, given, let's just assume that we're going to keep the current level of interaction by our judges and the support staff, is this a bill that's expected to stay essentially the same over the next few years,
yes,
assuming there's no new court?
Yes. The reason being is that we could only handle about 25 people in each session, so we can handle about a total of 75 active cases, and that's what it costs. Now we are requiring these people to utilize their own insurance programs and other funding, and we're becoming more aggressive in trying to use these private funds rather than personal funds. And Mercy Health has come on board as a therapist, and they've done a wonderful job in seeking out the private funding so that we don't use public monies.
You know, I am thrilled with this program, as I told others, David included. I said, boy, this sounds like it would be a boring conversation at first, and perhaps it is to some, but to people who, aside from the good work that you're doing, and I really I think it's spectacular, and I've seen the emotion on the faces of the staff and yourself, and in particular the families of these folks when they go through this graduation. But aside from that, you know, the good works alone, which as tightwad as I am, I think I would be willing to support the financial investment on the county for that. But in fact, it's a financially intelligent program. It makes sense. If we need a new jail or not, which is an issue coming down the pike, and we will talk about that in greater detail later. But whether we need a jail or not, it makes sense to reduce the numbers of people that we funnel into the front door of that jail in any ways that we can. And it doesn't seem to me, with our current culture, sadly, that we're going to see a normal reduction in folks who are dependent upon drugs or alcohol, and ultimately, because their brains are scrambled in some manner, are going to do things that are going to suggest that they ought to spend some time in jail.
Yeah. Well, another point I want to make is that there are 176 sobriety courts in the United States, or about 3.5 sobriety courts per state. Michigan, however, has 26 of the sobriety courts, which indicates, I think, our governor's attitude and passion and recognition that sobriety courts, 26 sobriety courts, 6 times the national average, are a successful way to reduce the cost to society.
Are these, David's got a question, but quick one. Are these up because in Snyder's administration they were expanded, or is this a carryover from
This is a carryover, but an expansion.
So Governor Granholm was supportive of this also?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Judge, one of the more important political races going on in Muskegon County is the race for a new prosecutor. And I'm just wondering if you could explain to all of us what role the prosecutor's office plays in these various specialty courts.
Well, historically, the prosecutor's office was resistant to the specialty courts. I think their attitude historically has been that jail is the way to treat people who break the law.
Now, when you say prosecutors, do you mean in Muskegon, or prosecutors as a generic
I think
term?
generally as a whole, but specifically in Muskegon.
Okay.
The attitude has changed over time. We've head-butted with the prosecutor's office through sitting down and having them understand more about what's going on and us recognize their role as prosecutors. We have come to a good working accommodation so that we are working smoothly with them, and it makes the program much more successful when you have all the players together.
I know that you're not going to, although it'd be kind of cool if you did, make a comment on who your favorite is for this position of prosecutor, county prosecutor, but have any of them made this a centerpiece of their campaign? Have any of them been in contact with you and said, look, this is something that I think is important to me, and I'd like to talk to the expert in town? Has that back and forth happened yet?
Those conversations have not happened yet. I expect them to happen. A couple of the people running for circuit court have talked to me in the past about it, and I think it's a necessary conversation that the circuit court candidates need to engage in and understand the dynamics and how these courts work and how successful they are, and make an evaluation whether they support them or not.
I was just curious, with lack of jobs that are available these days, is it worse now? Do you see more alcoholism going on, or is it about the same? Or
it's about the same.
About the same.
We have about, I would say, maybe 1,200 drunk driving cases in Muskegon County. And that would include the drunk driving second cases, and then we have, I think, about 230 drunk driving third offenses.
Now, I think you already addressed this, but I've forgotten already. A third offense, assuming they have not been through the sobriety court, that would be almost your perfect candidate for this. Is that correct?
That's right. The third offense it makes it a felony. It used to be that to be a felony, you had to get 3 drunk driving cases within 10 years. That made it a felony. Several years ago, they expanded that so it was 3 drunk drivings over the course of your lifetime, which means that if you were in college and picked one up, and now picked one up in 1980 and finally went out to a wedding reception and drank a little bit too much, picked up a third now, you were a felon.
Well, that is, I'm sure, incentive enough for many people. But as you said, what, a couple hundred a year? Third convictions or third offenses.
Well, those repeat offenders show that it's not just a matter of going out and driving drunk. It's become a way of life for them, and that's why this is so important, because you're trying to change their lifestyle, not just specific incidents.
Well, that's what really kind of shocked me, freaked me out, if you will, that you would go after a group that I would think would absolutely give you terrible results, and in fact come up with the kind of results that you have.
Well, we are not trying to take the easy ones. In fact, more recently, we're picking up felons that are having their second felony, which means that they've already committed 3 drunk drivings, and now they went through the traditional probation. It didn't help them a bit. Now they've picked up the second one, and now they're coming into sobriety court. So it's going to be interesting to see how, in the long run, they react to this type of treatment versus what they got before. We've got maybe 7 or 8 of those people now.
You know, I've got a mind that is maybe a little paranoid about motives of folks, but there has been talk about building a new jail in Muskegon County and perhaps doubling the number of beds that are currently available. And I know there are, as the current Sheriff Rosser has publicly stated, that the people in jail are a bunch of bad hombres, and I don't deny that or disagree with that. But would there not be a little bit of pushback from the prosecutors and the police groups if we've got 400 empty beds? Would there be the inclination to not support alternatives to jail vacations, if you will?
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Well, you got 400 empty beds, and you got this rogue judge out here who's diverting people who ought to be in jail. And I use that term loosely, of course. But you are saving folks from going to jail. We got all these empty beds we got to fill. I mean, it's like a Holiday Inn.
Well, that's a good point, and I don't. That's not my focus or my concern. My concern is to deal with the people that I'm dealing with and let the prosecutor deal with how he wants to react to 400 beds.
That's a wonderful evasion of my question, but at least I got the question out.
That's why I went to law school.
There we go. Well, it's, there again. This issue of the jail, the new jail, or whatever form it's going to ultimately show up as, is a very big interest to me, and your endeavors have been specific to a small portion of it. But I really would like to see more out-of-the-box thinking, more, traditionally you've got the jail that is theoretically filled. The only answer is we're going to go build a new jail.
Well, his answer, too, was that the jails do not work for alcoholics as far as the drunk drivers. It doesn't work for them.
And in here we go.
In many cases, I'm sure it doesn't work at all for a lot of criminals.
With the drug situation also. And so that knee-jerk, which is a freight train going downhill, apparently here in Muskegon County, that knee-jerk that the only answer to the full jails is a new jail, and the employees and the costs and everything else, and then certainly the social costs involved. I would really like to see, and I know judges are not supposed to be political, but I would like to see more people stand up and get the word out, and we're doing our best here to let people know about this. But before you make this, and I call it a knee-jerk decision because it appeared to have been made many years ago, before we commit ourselves to a plan that may very well just not work whatsoever, when there are other alternatives out here, where, as you said, there's a possibility of a drug court, and for lack of not significant amount of money and a judge willing to take it on, we might already have here in place right now.
Well, the other aspect that we haven't touched upon is that there are a great percentage of people that are in jail now before they're convicted. They're sitting there waiting their trial. They're waiting their day in court, and they have not been convicted.
Well, that seems to make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Why?
Well, because there are other ways to ensure that these people don't reoffend and they are segregated from our society rather than put them behind bars. We can give them a scram unit. We can put a unit on, a GPS unit, to monitor their existence outside of jail.
Aren't they doing that a lot already?
We are taking up that challenge, but I think it's a challenge that we need to take up and focus on more and get rid of that great majority of people that will set aside a great many beds for people that have actually been convicted. There are people being let out of jail now that have been convicted and sentenced because they need the space for people that can't make the bonds that have not been convicted, and that doesn't make any sense.
No, it does not to me. Well, there's a citizens advisory committee on this new jail, or at least the proposed new jail, and I, not surprisingly, submitted my name to my county commissioner, and not surprisingly, he did not submit my name. But it seems to me, I'm getting all sorts of new information that I've never heard before from you, Judge, and I appreciate it very much. And you seem to be one of these out-of-the-box thinkers. Has there been a brainstorming session that you're aware of with people like you, maybe the prosecutors and the sheriff, but other citizens and other of the prominent people in our community to say, okay, let's take the position, we will not build a new jail. What are other ways that we smart people can come up with to address this problem of, I don't think anybody denies the fact that there is an overcrowding problem at some level. But has there been a brainstorming session, say, okay, hold on, there are other alternatives, or there might be. Has that happened?
To my knowledge, there is a planning group right now that is headed by 15 or 20 people that are looking into the possibility of the new jail, places for the new jail, what the new jail would look like, what shouldn't be in a new jail, and things like that. I cannot report exactly what they're saying or what they're doing, but I would suspect that they are looking at all avenues to reduce the commitment to jail, so that that the only people that go to jail are the ones that really need to be segregated from society and need to be punished for their crimes.
Judge, do you see any problem with funding or available funds for alternatives to jail, especially for these people who haven't been convicted yet? Is that an impediment at this time, especially for our district court judges?
There's always funding questions, but there are ways, I think, to do these things, and there are risks that we will face when we operate outside the box, and we've got to accept the fact that sometimes these things don't work, but we cannot sit idly by while these people fester in jail that have not been convicted of anything.
I was just wondering, statistically, is it, as far as domestic violence, is that a lot of that caused because of alcohol or drug abuse?
Good question. Whether domestic violence is a product of alcoholism or alcoholism is a product of a bad situation. It's my inclination that the alcohol drives the domestic violence types of situation, as well as all the discord in your families as well.
Okay. So, I mean, if you took care of that problem, that would take care of a lot of domestic abuse problems too.
Oh,
as
yeah.
far as not just on the road, but also at the home.
Yeah. Another interesting statistic: we graduated 35 people from our sobriety court in May. I did some statistics on that. 30% of the 35 people were, when they were arrested for serious accidents. The average blood alcohol level of the 35 people was over a 0.20. Once they got in the program, their accumulated sobriety over the period of our program was 53 years of sobriety. Not only did they reorganize themselves and spend time at home rather than the bars, they also volunteered over 3,100 hours of community service to give back to the community, as well as to recover themselves. So they were bad actors when they came into the program, and now are successful and hopeful, or more hopeful that they will continue to be successful.
Well, it costs a whole lot less money to have them out of jail and at jobs where they are in fact producing for their families and paying taxes and everything else. Judge Wierengo, thank you so much. Best of luck in the future in expanding this program and keeping it going. David Wells, the judicial candidate, I'm sure you've listened well, and your questions lead me to believe that you are a big supporter of this. So thank you. We will take a break right now, and we'll be back with Eye on Muskegon.
Thank you.
Oh, don't you love me sometime?
Smog, garbage, sewers, car exhaust. Today's world puts our sense of smell on overload. Luckily, there are places we can go to refocus our senses. Our national wildlife refuges. When you visit, your nose will instantly recognize the purity of nature. Bask in the aromatic scent of the black pine trees blowing in the wind. Detect the sweet fragrance of primroses, wild violets, and blue sage. Smell the fresh salt water in the air as waves crash into rocky shoals. When you smell these things, you're smelling the world the way we found it. With over 500 refuges across America, you don't have to go far to make a special connection with nature. Learn more at fws.gov/refuges. That's fws.gov/refuges.
A message from Orlando Bloom, Neo, Joel Madden, Lawrence Fishburne, Taya Leone, and Nicole Richie.
They do not have to die, but they do.
24,000 children every day.
They die for reasons we can prevent.
Like not getting enough food or medicine or clean, safe water to drink.
24,000 children every day.
But we are gaining ground. A generation ago, twice as many children were dying.
Still, 24,000 every day?
They don't have to die.
They do not have to die.
They don't have to die, but they do.
They die because they are young and vulnerable.
They die because through no fault of their own, they are poor.
24,000 children.
24,000 children.
24,000 children every day.
My name is Taya Leone, and I believe.
My name is Joel Madden.
My name is Nicole Richie.
My name is Neo, and I believe.
My name is Lawrence Fishburne.
My name is Orlando Bloom, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hams in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dad.
And we're back. I thought that was a excellent and to me a very enlightening 45-minute or half hour with Judge Wierengo.
He demonstrated how far we've come, but yet how many opportunities are still out there, especially with the drug court and expansion of the mental health and the veterans courts. We can accomplish so much more, and I think that's directly related to all these financial issues regarding the jail.
Well, I sure would like to see some leadership from the county commission, who has certainly shown leadership in the sense that they've essentially said we need a new jail. I would like to see some acknowledgement and some explanation of what they have done in terms of looking for funding. And I know that there's a person whose job is to get funding, but the county commissioners routinely spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on what I would call questionable items like free iPads for themselves and other interestingly obtuse spendings that they do. And here we have a situation that addresses a human need. It most specifically addresses a financial need in terms of the need for the new jail. And here we had just sitting here a little bit ago, one of the guys who was the pioneer in Muskegon County, one of the pioneers in the state of Michigan, who could really be hands-on if they wanted to avail themselves
and
of it.
He's been judged for how long?
Well, that's a good question. I know he was just reelected.
Many years. And
yeah.
One of the things that he said that will stick with me is that jails don't work. There you go.
Well, that's right, and they
other
do
alternatives
work.
Have to work.
Well, they do work to a certain extent. I mean, they keep people if you're a drunk driver, they keep you off the road. Yeah. But the negative repercussions, that jail ought to be the last option. I didn't realize until he had suggested that obviously it was a big enough issue that we have all these people taking jail spots, not being able to go home to their families, not being able to work, who are waiting just to be arraigned or maybe they've been arraigned, that might be the wrong term, but waiting to get in front of a judge. And again, I guess I won't question the motives because I don't know enough about it, but I sure would like to see more thought, like we just heard from Judge Wierengo, in terms of alternatives that make sense for human beings and their families and society as a whole, and also make sense for the tightwads like myself who are looking for accountability and want to spend our ever shrinking dollars in the most efficient way.
The important point I heard him make is that jail doesn't work for people with lifestyle problems, right. Addictions to alcohol, addiction to other drugs, people with mental health problems.
And that's like the majority of the people, though. When you say that,
it's a large percentage of the people.
Right.
You know, it's very clear those guys are onto something. And Judge Wierengo off air, we were talking about the cost of it and the efficiency of it and the effectiveness. And I did mention, we want to make sure that it continues to be efficient and effective. And he said that is an issue that any bureaucracy faces, is that once it's in place, it likes to get bigger and it likes to have, nicer offices. And maybe, why should we have a meeting in this crummy old county building when we could have a lovely meeting in Hawaii? And, the bureaucracies do tend to explode. So it does take folks like the three of us to constantly remind them that they are working for the benefit of all the citizens, and I don't think that message necessarily at all, as a matter of fact, needs to go out to Judge Wierengo. Okay, well, enough of that. A few other things I wanted to talk about before we got a little not a lot of time.
Not much time, yeah.
Coming on Monday, I believe it's Monday. Our governor will be coming into town to Reiche's Bakery, and my understanding is, at least from the MLive article, from 10 o'clock to about noon, Reiche's Bakery. You can find the information if you just Google it. But I find it interesting that one of the first the places he's going to go after his bombshell, which was dropped on Friday, about the bridge, which I find fascinating because I've spoken with state reps and I've done some reading over the weekend, and there doesn't seem to be any understanding of where the money's going to come from, even though the governor said that Canada's going to build the bridge, which I don't deny. I can't dispute that. But the huge cost, and this is what has brought a lot of the opposition to the bridge, which is the enormous cost of connecting the bridge to the highways and going through neighborhoods and, repaying people for eminent domain, which is, taking their homes away from them. And that isn't really the ultimate issue. It is what's called community benefits, which is a new, relatively new, at least to me, form of extortion to the taxpayer of the community leaders, if you will, community organizers, to say, hey, it's you can pay me for my house what it's worth, but that's not enough. We're going to have additional trucks and cars, so we want money to go for green energy. There's going to be emotional disruption, so we want to have money for psychiatrists for folks, and where they're going to go, there aren't going to be as many parks as there used to be, so we have to build this. In other words, what ought to be a fairly simple, straightforward, and relatively financially efficient decision, the way it had been presented to the Republicans primarily, was, wait a minute, this is essentially an open check that we're going to vote for, and that's why that is their prime reason, at least has been voiced to me, why the people who've been against the bridge have been against it. Now, we'll see. The governor hasn't been very clear as to where this money is going to come from.
I read that it's all coming from Canada. In fact, the House has passed a resolution prohibiting any funds, Michigan funds, to be spent on it. And then you have United States Customs for the new customs stations. But they'd probably have to spend that money anyways, even if they just expanded the current bridge, because I understand one of the problems is getting through customs, and they could use more slots.
And one wonders with the trillions of dollars that have been spent in the last couple of years, why that customs situation hasn't been addressed, because it's really not very hard. I mean, you can just add more gates. As a matter of fact, I know the Blue Water Bridge, our only customs area is once they've crossed the bridge. So if they got a truck that's loaded with explosives, they could blow it up before they get checked in our own customs, which is kind of dumb. But on the Canadian side is a huge amount of empty area that I wouldn't be at all surprised the United States could rent and have customs on both sides and speed things up. Again, common sense answers to problems that are important. We have to have customs, but there doesn't seem to be any of this outside the box thinking at all. I was saddened to hear that no one apparently had been in touch with the judges in terms of, wait a minute, hey, we don't need to go full bore on the jail. At least let's spend a lot of time looking at alternatives. And I think again we've got problems that can be fixed if we're interested in fixing them. We can't fix them if we've decided in advance on an answer that makes certain people happy. Is that the end of it? Well, hey, we a great show today, and thank you, David Wells, attorney and candidate for judge. Oscar, thank you. Hey, next week we've got an interesting show. We're going to have another candidate, Clark Durant, who is a candidate for the Republican nomination for the Senate, will be in. And we've also got an update on this awful SEIU union scam on home health care providers. It continues. We thought it was dead. So we'll be talking about that also, and many other things. Folks, have a great week. Next week, we'll put the eye on you, Muskegon.
Happy Father's Day.
And happy Father's Day to you all.
I knew I had a problem.
Eating and eating.
I felt so alone.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people just like you. Start living the life you deserve. Find us on the web at oa.org.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Clay Aiken, and I believe that number should be zero. Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
We've got all these credit card bills. We've got to find a way to get out from under this debt.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has been helping people for 60 years. Speak with a counselor at 800-388-2227 or visit debtadvice.org. This is a public service campaign for the NFCC.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090, WKBC Muskegon, and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.